Good morning, folks. This is Greg Judy at Green Pastures Farm. This morning we're going to be talking a little bit about chargers. I've had a lot of people, I get this a lot. What kind of charger do you use? What kind of charger do you use? And how big a charger and all that? Well, I'm going to talk about chargers. So this one here is the Stafix. Okay. This is a M36. So one thing you want to remember on chargers is the joules. Look at the joules. That's what that is. It's a 36 joule. So this one has 36 joules of output, and I believe it's 40 stored. It doesn't say it, probably on the directions inside. Yeah, here we go. So this one actually has 54 joules stored energy, 36 output. So that means it's got a horsepower of 36 joule out onto your fence, okay? This is one heck of a charger. This thing will power up, well, they say 2,500 acres. We don't have that many acres underneath one charger, but we do have a lot of pressure on our fence, folks. Everybody's asking me, well, we tried that electric fence, it didn't work, it shorted out. You didn't have the right charger. Probably had some steel posts in your fencing. Eliminate the steel post. Do not have steel posts in your fencing system, because every steel post is a potential ground rod. Just remember that. So go with these are what we call high voltage, low impedance chargers. How big do you want to get? Well, if you're going to be running sheep fence or netting for your chickens or pigs root dirt up onto your fence, that's going to put some pressure on your fence. Or if you're running 5-6 wires out here through the brush, and a lot of grass and brush grows up on that, you need a pretty good sized charger. Now, if you only had, let's say, 40 acres, I don't go buy this charger for 40 acres. It's too big. You need maybe something like a 10 joule or something. I will say this: when you get a long rainy period and you get a lot of rain and you got vegetation touching your fence, that's when it tests the horsepower of your fence. Never shut your fence off. I made that mistake early on. I had these shut-off switches all around my farm, and as the cattle or whatever moved through the farm, I'd shut that switch off so that I could put all my power forward onto what the cattle were on. Folks, don't do that. That's the worst thing in the world to do, because now what you've done is you've taken the voltage off that section of your fence. You're not going to be back for maybe 30 to 60 days, and all that vegetation grows up on your fence. It's not getting shocked. In other words, it's the sap that's touching the wire. It's not getting shocked, and so that sap just grows up, and that's what pulls your voltage down. It's the sap in the vegetation. If it's getting shocked constantly, it's every 100,000th of a second there's a charge going out, it dries up the sap in the vegetation touching it. It'll actually kill a multifer rose bush that grows up on our fence. We'll go through our fence maybe once every 3 years. You don't have to go after every year and cut the brush off of it. We don't do that. We got 16 farms, and we try and keep the trees off of it. Maybe every 2 or 3 years we'll go out and we'll clear that stuff back, but it's not an everyday or every week deal if you have the right charger. Now, while we're talking about chargers, I love the Stafix. That's number one, and I'll tell you why. It's got a remote control on it, and you reach out and you touch the fence and it shuts it off. And I'll talk about that in another talk, so you see exactly what I'm talking about. Anytime you talk about chargers, this is kind of overkill, but this is what I got on mine. Okay, this is a 7 foot. Actually, I'm 6. Yeah, a little over 7 foot. That's a 1-inch steel galvanized rod. Folks, on a big charger like this, you need a minimum of 6, and I've got 10 to 12 on mine. If you have a problem with your charger and it's not shocking your animals, look at this. Look at your grounds. Go out and check and make sure your clamps are all tight. Make sure that your wire's not broke going from one ground to the next. And I use galvanized high tensile wire to carry it from one to the next. When you drive this in the ground, you want to put it somewhere where you're not going to be mowing over it, because you want to leave a couple inches sticking out. That's where you put your ground rod clamp. Get you a good galvanized ground rod clamp. Don't put copper to galvanized. You put a copper clamp on here, or vice versa, a copper ground rod with a galvanized clamp. You get this corrosion at that interface. It's not good. So ground rods, put in enough of them and put them on the north side of your building where it's shaded. That way it's going to stay damp. Or underneath a gutter, where the gutter's coming out, you've got water, or down in a low spot around a pond. That's the best. If you've got a sewer or something, or a lagoon, and you can get these driven around that, oh my gosh, you're going to have a good ground even in a drought. That's when you get into trouble. When it's droughty, it doesn't hurt, and you've been in a, say, 3-month drought, go out there and water your ground rods. Put some water on them. Make sure these things stay moist. Might do that once a week just to make sure they don't get too dry. Okay, now we're going to talk about the Cyclops. Okay, the Cyclops charger. I love Cyclops. They're a good charger. The one thing I don't like about the Cyclops is it doesn't have the remote switch on it. So I can't walk out to my fence and go off and it turns it off. The Stayfix, you can do that with the larger models. Now the smaller jewel models on the Stayfix does not have that option. But I think starting around 12 joules and on up, you can do that. The Stayfix is available through PowerFlex. Cyclops, I get these from my friend. I can give you that. Just either email me or whatever. I don't have it right here with me, but I have a neighbor that carries this. And you may have a dealer in your state, but it's called Cyclops. These are actually made in the good old USA. Folks, this is Independence Day, and I'm proud to be an American. And look at that, made in the USA. How often do you see that today? Folks, this is one heck of a charger. The beautiful thing about the Cyclops is it's about 70, it's 30% cheaper than the Stayfix. This one here, it's about the same size charger. Okay, this is a 36 joule too. This one costs $1,300. This one costs about $880. Well, that's a lot of money, Greg. Yeah, it is. But so is an animal that gets hit out on the highway. Somebody hits it because your fence didn't keep it in. I talked to a guy the other day, he had a 2-test charger, it's an old thing, and had a light blinking on it. And the needle would go to 10,000 every time it blinked. I reached out and grabbed the wire. Didn't feel nothing. Well, heck no, it's not going to keep in animals. You grab this thing, you're going to remember it. And your sockets, I mean, you will remember it for a long time. I feel like I get hit by a sledgehammer when I touch it. You get really careful about not wanting to touch it. Cyclops, great charger, made in the USA. It's cheaper than the Stayfix. It doesn't have the remote. So with that, we've talked a little bit about chargers, good ground systems. I'm going to stop right there. Everyone have a great